What's up, guys? We're back, and today gonna be going over the East region of the 2023 March Madness bracket. Have an in-depth kind of breakdown of who can make the Final Four, who could maybe get upset, who could go on a little bit of a Cinderella run. And let me tell you, this Eastern region, this is probably the most um, hard to predict. You got so many upsets that could potentially happen. You have a lot of teams that are just very, very strong and could go on runs. This is definitely the most unpredictable of the regions. So let's just get into it. Purdue obviously not going to lose to a 16 seed. If that happens this year, that'd be insane. Memphis FAU is one of those just great 8-9 matchups. I'm sad that they had to go against each other because I feel like if they didn't go against each other, these both of these teams could have went on a little bit of a run. But since they're matching up against each other, only one could potentially go on that run. Obviously, Memphis has Kendrick Davis, great point guard for them. They also got DeAndre Williams, Alex Lomax. They have a good supporting cast there at Memphis, and then Florida Atlantic is just another mid-major, similar to Charleston. How they just have great lineups, and their play style it will be challenging for any of these great teams. I personally would have Memphis winning this, and then right here, this is potentially an upset where Purdue could lose. I know a good bit of people are predicting this, but last year, I mean, people predicted that North Carolina over Baylor upset, and it did happen. I feel like this is probably more popular than that Baylor getting upset by North Carolina pick, but I mean, it definitely could happen, man. I could see Memphis definitely winning this game. And if you got Duke or Roberts, it's another just really tough, good matchup. Duke just very, very hot right now. Or Roberts is on like a 20-game winning streak. They didn't lose a game in conference play, and they got Max Asmus and a 7'5" center from Arkansas. They got a couple transfers from some highly touted schools after that run they made in 2021. And I mean, this year they could go on another one. They could go on another little run. It's gonna be tough against Duke, and then I feel like right here, you could have a 13/4 because Louisiana, although they're probably the weakest 13 seed. In my opinion, I would say they're probably the weakest 13 seed, other than maybe I forgot who is playing. Oh my gosh, who's the other 4 seed? It's Indiana, Tennessee, Virginia. There's another 4 seed. That's besides the point. But Louisiana isn't that great of a team. Tennessee, although they are definitely lacking in some areas, I would say they probably get out of this first round. It's just the winner of this game. I feel whoever wins this game gets basically a trip to the Sweet 16. If it's Oral Roberts, I have them moving on. If it's Duke, I have them moving on. Either one could definitely be Tennessee, and then either one of these teams could also be Purdue if they end up beating Memphis. Oral Roberts could potentially go on to a Elite Eight run where they do end up taking on Purdue and beat them because they have someone that's the size of Zach Edey. So that would be cool to see, 7'5" Connor Vanover against 7'4" Zach Edey. Obviously, Zach Edey is the better player, but just having someone that's his size, is definitely something that's going to be a little different to him. So that could potentially throw him off, and you could see Oral Roberts making a Elite Eight run. But yeah, I mean, I would probably have Memphis and then maybe Duke win this one and then go like this. This is how I had my bracket end up, but I could see something like this happening. Then down in this lower region, you got Kentucky Providence. Good game. I mean, Providence could get an upset here, but I feel like Kentucky's not going to let this opportunity pass up because they have a very not easy run, but they definitely have an easier run, in my opinion. Kansas State, Montana State, whoever wins that game, I feel like Kentucky could beat. This year, the 14 seeds are pretty weak, but Montana State, if you wanted to pick one, I would say Montana State over Kansas State is one if you are not feeling this UCSB over Baylor. So, that's potentially an upset. Montana State has a solid guard in Raekwon Battle. Can kind of lead that team. But against Kansas State, I don't really see it. And you got Michigan State, USC. This kind of another toss up. USC has Boogie Ellis as a guard that could carry them, kind of like Memphis does. But I feel like they're definitely more inconsistent, and they ended off the season worse. So I would probably pick Michigan State there. And then potentially, some people have this 15/2 just because the 15/2 has become it's happened both of the last two tournaments. So if you wanted to pick one, Vermont over Marquette was probably the most reasonable 15/2. I'm not feeling it though. I think Marquette's on too hot of a run to where they're being underrated, but also favorited at the same time. It's weird what's going on with Marquette right now in the media. You got some people that are saying, oh, they can lose to Michigan State. Oh, they're not that good of a team. They're probably the weakest two. I do honestly agree with that. They are probably the weakest two seed, but they're still also one of the hottest teams, and they can definitely go on a run because they're just one of those underrated teams that people aren't really paying attention to as much as you would maybe say a Texas or an Arizona or UCLA. Um, so you could have Vermont upsetting Marquette. I don't really feel it this year. I don't think any 15s are going to be twos. But you never know. You know, none of this stuff is set in stone. Anything could happen. But then if this was to happen, I would maybe say Michigan State has a better chance of upsetting Marquette. Just that guard play at Michigan State that just is killer. You got Tyson Walker, you got AJ Hogard, you got solid shooters around them. I think Malik Hall is one of their names, and they got Joey Hauser. The center position is kind of lacking, but Midi Sissoko or whatever his name is, he is definitely a solid player. And then Marquette, I feel like they also just have great wings alongside their star point guard Tyler Kolek. So this could be kind of a toss up. I would probably pick Marquette, but Michigan State could definitely get it done. You got Kentucky versus Kansas State if you have that. Could be something like Providence, Kansas State, or Kentucky, Montana State if you're feeling really weird. But I'd probably go something like this. Maybe you have Providence winning, but I feel like Kentucky and Coach Cal will try to string together at least one win in this March Madness. Because I'm pretty sure since Oscar Tshiebwe's been at Kentucky, they have not won a single March Madness game, which I feel like you can't just waste that guy's career. So I would say maybe Kentucky beats Providence, and then against Kansas State or Montana State, I would probably have Kentucky winning. Because against Kansas State, I feel like they don't have anyone to really control Oscar Tshiebwe alongside those good guards at Kentucky. Kansas State has Marquise Noel, of course. He's a great offensive guard, but defensive side, he's not the best. He's only 5'9". And then you got Keontae Johnson, who is a very good small forward / power forward that can do a little bit of everything for Kansas State. But against Kentucky, I feel like Kentucky would be able to pull off a win here. And then in this matchup, really it's something where it's like, Marquette has a very good constructed team, but if Kentucky's hot, and I don't see them ever cooling down. They're going to be, if they're in the Sweet 16, they're going to be pushing to get to the Elite 8 or Final 4. And against Marquette, I could see them doing that, even if it's Michigan State. I would have probably Kentucky beating a Marquette team. Because, not all 2 seeds are going to make it's not all just going to be 1-2s in the Elite 8. I'm pretty sure there's a statistic where in the last couple, the last 11 tournaments, the 2 seeds, there's at least been one that has lost before the Sweet 16. In 10 of the last 11, I think. It's something like that. So I would probably pick a 7/2 or a 10/2 upset in the second round if I were you guys. Could be Michigan State, Marquette. Could be Utah State over U of A. What's another one that can maybe happen? Against Texas, either the Penn State or Texas A&M. If you feel really confident in one of them, have them move on. And the last one is UCLA versus Northwestern and Boise State. I feel like that's probably the least common of them. Just because Northwestern, I feel like, is kind of lackluster, as well as Boise State. Those 2 teams against UCLA, although UCLA is missing their guard, Jalen Clark, I feel like against either of those teams, they would be able to win. But for the Eastern region, potential Final 4 teams, I feel like there could be probably, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, there could legitimately be 8 teams that can make your Final Four. I would say realistically, I would keep it to maybe 5 teams. I would have probably Purdue there. Marquette could obviously make it there. I would have Kentucky as a potential candidate to make it there. And then I would have Duke as a potential candidate to make it there. That's 4. And then the last one, I mean, you could either throw in Memphis if you want to have a little bit of a Cinderella team, or if you're really feeling super risky, you could have Oral Roberts going there. I would try to stay away probably from Kansas State. I just don't feel too confident in them. They're not a grade 3 seed. I feel like they're overseeded for what they are. Oral Roberts, I feel like they could maybe make a Final Four push, but I feel like if they go up against Kentucky, Kentucky would probably win this one. Um, but you never truly know. I feel like if Memphis is there, Memphis could win it. Duke obviously could win it. So yeah, I'd say Memphis, Duke, Kentucky, Marquette, and Purdue. Those are like the 5 teams that you should probably look at as teams that could win this Eastern region. If you don't like any of those teams, maybe Michigan State would be one, or Roberts. Those are the other 2 that I might see. And then Kansas State's probably my 8th most likely team to make it there. But yeah, I'd probably stick to the 5 teams that I said at first. I'd say Purdue, Duke, Kentucky, and Marquette. These are the 4 probably most reasonable teams to make it there. And then if you want to have a Cinderella run, I would say Memphis would be your team. So yeah, that is the bracket breakdown of the Eastern region for this 2023 March Madness. Like to subscribe if you feel like it. Other than that, I will see you guys later.